These are the 9 secrets tourists aren't supposed to know. From dangerous conditions they hide to pricing scams and insider tricks. We're counting down the 9 secrets that pull back the curtain on what really happens at ski resorts behind the scenes. Whether you're a first-timer or a seasoned skier, these 9 secrets will change how you see ski resorts forever. Let's get into it, starting with what happens the moment the lifts shut down. When the lifts stop spinning and the last guests head for the lodge, the mountain becomes a very different place. Patrol completes the final sweep, then grooming machines roll out with blades down, often with zero visibility in the dark. Snowmaking guns start firing across the slopes, sometimes launching high-pressure blasts blindly onto empty runs. If someone sneaks in a last descent after closing, rescue is not coming, staff are gone, and injuries can go undiscovered for hours. There are real cases of guests being trapped or killed this way. An ex-patrol member put it bluntly, "We would have people hide out to ski after close. They did not realize grooming cats were on the runs. Snowmaking was blind firing, and if they got injured, patrol was not looking for them until the morning sweep." People have died this way. Every time a lift ticket or season pass gets scanned, the system logs more than just your entry. Staff can attach notes to guest accounts, anything from complaints and rule violations to simple rudeness. These annotations follow guests for the entire season, and sometimes across multiple resorts in the same network. Repeat offenders get flagged for extra ID checks or slower lines, and the label sticks. Some resorts even share blacklists across different mountains, making it tough to escape a bad reputation. One former ticket scanner put it plainly, "If you were a jerk to lift ops or argued about policies, we'd add notes to your account. Next time you scan in, staff would know you're that person and treat you accordingly. Be nice, we literally control your mountain experience." Behind the scenes, the people who keep the lifts running and the slopes safe often live in conditions most guests would find unthinkable. At many resorts, 4 to 6 workers share a single bedroom, crammed into tiny spaces with barely any privacy. Mold creeps across walls, heating breaks for weeks, and mice run through kitchens. Rent for these overcrowded rooms runs $400 to $600 a month, taken straight out of paychecks before workers even see their wages. The housing is not just tight, it is unhealthy and sometimes dangerous. One ex-worker said, "I lived with 5 roommates in a 2-bedroom with black mold, broken windows, and no hot water half the winter. Management knew and didn't care. We were replaceable. If we complained, they'd just hire someone else." These are the people serving food, scanning tickets, and helping guests on the hill, often too exhausted or sick to do their job safely, but with nowhere else to go. Resorts love to hype powder days, but the reality is carefully staged long before guests even buckle their boots. Marketing teams send photographers and sponsored skiers out at dawn, sometimes as early as 6 a.m., to carve untouched snow for the camera in areas most tourists cannot access. By the time those photos and videos hit social media around 9 a.m., the best lines are already tracked out. But the illusion is set. Ticket prices often spike on these days, thanks to dynamic pricing systems that know fresh snow equals higher demand. A former marketing employee said they would send photographers out at 6 a.m. with the resort's best skiers to shoot powder runs, then post the images at 9 a.m. when tourists were just arriving. By then, those runs were tracked out, but guests did not know that. The powder you see online is often just a well-timed photo op, and an even better excuse to charge more. Ski schools are not just about teaching turns. They are a profit center with sales targets to hit. Instructors face constant pressure to upsell private lessons, multi-day packages, and pricey clinics, with schedules and pay tied directly to how much they sell, not how well students improve. Dashboards track every upsell, and those who fall short find themselves bumped to the worst time slots or given fewer students. For beginners, that means you might hear, "You're a natural, but you would really benefit from our advanced clinic, even if you are barely linking turns." The real incentive is not your progress, it is hitting the next sales quota. As one ex-instructor put it, "We had quotas. If you didn't upsell enough private lessons or convince groups to book another day, you would get the worst time slots or fewer students. Teaching took a backseat to sales. For many guests, the lesson never ends, at least not until the credit card does. Mountain cafeterias and mid-lodge snack bars run on a set of rules you will never find posted at the register. The 5-second rule is standard for dropped food. Expired cheese or lunch meat that does not smell bad goes right back into sandwiches. Temperature guidelines are treated as suggestions, not requirements. Inspections are rare because these kitchens are remote, so managers know they can cut corners. Most staff are seasonal hires with barely any food safety training, and they cycle through every few months. These practices create low standards and hidden hazards. One former cafeteria worker said they would serve food that sat out for hours, reheat pizza from the day before, and watch coworkers handle food without washing hands after bathroom breaks. The fresh-baked cookies were actually frozen dough from a tube. For guests, the biggest risk is not just overpriced chili, it is not knowing what is really happening behind the counter. Rental shops at many ski resorts operate on a simple rule. They keep equipment in circulation as long as possible, no matter how many times it has been used. Manufacturer guidelines say skis and boards should be retired after 100 to 150 rental days. In reality, resorts commonly push them past 200 days, sometimes much longer. Some boots have been worn for hundreds of feet, with liners worn flat and shells held together by duct tape. Those boots are still handed out to unsuspecting guests. Most tourists do not realize the difference. Seasoned locals and premium renters get the newest gear, while first-timers end up with the oldest skis on the rack. Tuning usually means a quick wipe and maybe a splash of wax, not a proper sharpening or base grind. One ex-rental tech summed it up. "We'd patch damaged equipment, hide defects, and send people out on gear I wouldn't let my own kids use. But management said unless it is completely broken, it goes back in rotation." For beginners, that can mean struggling with dull edges, unpredictable bindings, or boots that do not fit, turning what should be a fun day into a risky one. Lift operators have front row seats to everything that happens on the mountain. Perched at the top and bottom of every lift, they watch every guest, every awkward fall, every couple's argument, every kid sneaking a snowball, and every adult who should not be skiing after that last drink. Their radios crackle all day, not just with safety calls, but with a steady stream of commentary about the guests below. There is a whole language of inside jokes and codes. Hot mess means someone who cannot load. Manager means the entitled types. Faceplant means the regulars who eat snow on the unload ramp. It is part survival, part entertainment. Stories about the wildest riders, the rudest parents, or the most dramatic wipeouts bounce from lift to lift in real time. One former lift op said, "We'd rate people's unloading skills, mock the I want to speak to your manager types, and definitely remembered the jerks who were rude to us. Be nice to lift ops. They control your experience more than you think. If you are polite, you might get a smile and a faster line. If not, do not be surprised if everyone on the mountain knows your story before you reach the top." On busy weekends and during low snow seasons, the pressure to keep guests happy can override the mountain's own safety standards. Patrol teams are tasked with avalanche control and hazard checks each morning. But management often pushes for more runs to open, even when conditions are far from ideal. Instead of waiting for a solid snowpack or finishing thorough mitigation, the directive comes down: get the terrain open. Thin coverage over rocks, exposed roots, and barely buried stumps become the norm, especially when hundreds of paying customers are demanding access. Signs reading "Caution Thin Cover" or "Avalanche Hazard" replace full closures. The legal risk shifts to the skier, not the resort. One former ski patrol member described it bluntly: "We'd get told to just put up caution signs instead of closing runs, because corporate didn't want to deal with complaints. If a guest got hurt, the sign was the resort's protection. The liability falls on the skier who ignored the warning. Patrol logs sometimes show runs opened hours before all checks are complete, especially when refund requests start piling up at guest services. Avalanche control can be rushed or skipped on less popular slopes, with the thinking being that a warning sign is enough to cover the resort's bases. For first-time visitors, an open sign suggests safety, but insiders know it's often a business calculation. When the snow is thin, the real risk isn't always obvious until you hit a rock at speed. For resorts, keeping terrain open means fewer refunds and better reviews. But the true cost is paid by skiers who trust the system to protect them. These are the 9 secrets tourists aren't supposed to know. From dangerous conditions they hide to pricing scams and insider tricks. Whether you're a first-timer or a seasoned skier, these 9 secrets will change how you see ski resorts forever. Let's get into it. Across all 9 secrets, one reality stands out. Ski resorts prioritize profit over both guest safety and worker well-being. The illusion of care is carefully managed, while risks and exploitation are hidden behind the scenes. For workers and skiers alike, awareness is the only real protection. Stay sharp out there.